What if I told you that beneath the sacred marble floors of the world's smallest country lie secrets so dark, so carefully guarded, that even popes have died rather than reveal them? Deep within the Vatican's 53 miles of secret archives, behind doors that have remained sealed for centuries, rest documents that could shatter faith, rewrite history, and expose conspiracies that stretch back 2,000 years. From the mysterious death of Pope John Paul I after only 33 days in power, to the Nazi gold hidden in Vatican vaults, to the necropolis of the dead buried 5 levels beneath St. Peter's Basilica, the Vatican is not just the spiritual center of 1.3 billion Catholics. It is a fortress of secrets, where truth goes to die and mysteries multiply in the shadows. Today, we're pulling back the veil on 8 of the most terrifying secrets the Vatican has spent centuries trying to hide from the world. Secrets about death, power, forbidden knowledge, and sins too monstrous to confess. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. On the morning of September 28, 1978, a nun entered the private chambers of Pope John Paul I, expecting to deliver his usual coffee. Instead, she found him dead, sitting upright in bed, glasses still on, papers scattered across his lap, his face frozen in what witnesses described as terror. The Vatican's explanation came quickly and decisively: natural causes. A heart attack. No autopsy, no questions. His body was embalmed within hours. But beneath the calm surface of official statements, something sinister was stirring. Pope John Paul I, born Albino Luciani, had been in power for only 33 days. Known affectionately as the Smiling Pope, he was considered gentle, apolitical, and unthreatening. But that perception was a dangerous miscalculation. Once elected, Luciani began pulling at threads no one dared to touch: the Vatican Bank and its shadowy dealings with organized crime, Masonic networks, and billions in laundered money. His investigation led him to uncover a web of corruption centered on 2 powerful figures: banker Michele Sindona and his protege Roberto Calvi, both of whom had deep mafia and Freemason connections. The Pope compiled a secret list of Vatican insiders, cardinals, bishops, and officials who were members of P2, Propaganda Do, a clandestine Masonic lodge banned by Catholic law. The implications were explosive. He planned to purge the church hierarchy, expose the rot, and restore integrity to the Vatican. The date of his reform announcement was set for September 29th. He died the night before. The inconsistencies surrounding his death are staggering. The Vatican changed its story multiple times, first claiming a secretary found the body, then admitting it was a nun who had been told to stay silent to avoid scandal. They insisted he died peacefully, reading devotional texts, yet witnesses saw financial documents from his investigation on the bed, documents that vanished without a trace. His glasses, his will, even his slippers disappeared. His medicine bottle was empty, hinting at tampering, but no toxicology tests were ever done. The hasty embalming destroyed any chance of forensic evidence. Those closest to him described a different scene: signs of distress, an interrupted movement toward the phone, and a face marked by fear, not serenity. One by one, people tied to the case met grim fates. Sindona died from poisoned coffee, officially ruled a suicide. Calvi was found hanging beneath London's Blackfriars Bridge, pockets weighted with stones, a ritualistic killing that screamed Freemasonry. The Vatican's response? Silence. No investigations, no transparency, no accountability. Files sealed for decades, witnesses silenced or dead. The men the Pope planned to remove, Cardinal Villot and Archbishop Marcinkus, retained their power, protected by the Church's untouchable immunity. Decades later, Pope John Paul I's death remains one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries in Vatican history, a story of faith, betrayal, and power protected by divine secrecy. The Church may have called it natural causes, but to this day, every unanswered question whispers the same truth: some secrets are kept not by accident, but by design. The city of the dead beneath your feet. Beneath the gleaming marble floors of St. Peter's Basilica lies a world few have ever seen, and even fewer are allowed to. 5 levels down, buried in eternal darkness, rests the Vatican necropolis, a forgotten Roman city of the dead sealed beneath one of the holiest places on earth. It was never meant to be discovered. In 1939, while workers were preparing a tomb for Pope Pius XI, their tools broke through to a hollow void below. What they found was astonishing: an underground labyrinth of tombs, shrines, and mausoleums, perfectly preserved since the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. Before Vatican Hill became the heart of Christianity, it was a pagan burial ground, where Rome's elite laid their dead to rest among frescoes of Dionysus, Isis, and Mithras. When Christianity took hold centuries later, the Church didn't destroy this pagan city, it buried it. Layer upon layer of earth, brick, and stone entombed the ancient necropolis, preserving its secrets even as the new faith rose above it. But what's most unsettling isn't just the necropolis's existence, it's how fiercely the Vatican guards its secrets. Only a fraction of this subterranean world is open to scholars, and even less to tourists. Officials claim this is to protect fragile relics from decay, but those who've worked there, archaeologists, guards, and restorers, tell another story. They speak of sealed corridors, bricked-up doorways, and forbidden chambers that Vatican officials refuse to let anyone enter. Some tunnels descend even deeper than the maps acknowledge, leading into blackness where exploration is strictly prohibited. One archaeologist who discovered a chamber older than Rome itself, possibly Etruscan in origin, was swiftly removed from his post. His photos vanished from archives, and his name was never mentioned again. Whispers persist of strange sounds in the darkness, footsteps echoing in empty halls, voices speaking Latin, and the faint scent of burning incense drifting through stone passages that haven't seen fire in centuries. Guards report seeing figures in ancient garb flickering at the edges of their flashlights, then vanishing into the shadows. The Vatican dismisses these accounts as superstition. Yet, it still refuses to allow complete excavation or public mapping of the necropolis. Whole sections remain sealed without explanation. What lies behind those bricked walls? Some believe the answers are grim, that the sealed tombs may conceal mass graves, pagan worshippers executed for defying the new faith, or early Christians martyred in secret. A chapter of history too dark for the Church to acknowledge. Officially, the Vatican says the necropolis is protected because it holds the tomb of St. Peter himself. But scholars question that claim. The bones attributed to Peter lack definitive proof. The Church's silence only deepens the mystery. What's undeniable is this: beneath the basilica stands a buried city, an entire civilization frozen in stone and secrecy. Its halls hold the story of Rome's spiritual transformation, from pagan empire to Christian empire. And whatever truths remain down there, the Vatican has chosen to keep them in the dark forever. Because sometimes, the holiest ground conceals the most haunting of graves. How the Vatican saved Nazi war criminals. When World War II ended, the world demanded justice. The Nuremberg trials were meant to bring every Nazi war criminal to account for the horrors they had unleashed. But while the victors hunted them across Europe, another network was already working, quietly, efficiently, and shockingly, from within Vatican walls. This secret escape system became known as the Ratlins, a network of safe houses, monasteries, and covert travel routes that smuggled thousands of Nazi fugitives out of Europe to new lives in Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay. And at the heart of it all were Catholic clergy. The operation was orchestrated primarily by Bishop Alois Hudel, a high-ranking Austrian cleric in Rome, and Father Krunislav Draganovic, a Croatian priest deeply tied to the Ustase regime. Both men operated directly from Vatican territory. They used church resources, diplomatic immunity, and religious cover to create false identities for Nazi officers fleeing justice, portraying them as refugees escaping communist persecution. The process was disturbingly organized. A fugitive would be sheltered in monasteries or church properties, issued a fake identity, and handed a Vatican letter vouching for his character. With this endorsement, the International Red Cross, unaware or complicit, would issue travel papers. Then, with priestly blessings and forged documents, the war criminal would walk through the port of Genoa, board a ship, and vanish into South America. Among those who escaped were names that still echo with horror. Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the Holocaust, lived freely in Argentina until captured in 1960. Joseph Mengele, Auschwitz's Angel of Death, evaded capture his entire life, dying in Brazil in 1979. Franz Stangl, commandant of Treblinka, reached Brazil with direct assistance from Bishop Hudel himself. Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon, fled to Bolivia, where he served as an advisor to military regimes. The evidence linking the Vatican to these escapes is overwhelming. Declassified intelligence, survivor testimonies, and church correspondence reveal a pattern of deliberate protection. Hudel even admitted it in his own writings, calling it a mission to save victims of political persecution. But why would the church, the same institution preaching morality, forgiveness, and truth, become a refuge for mass murderers? Historians offer several explanations, each one more unsettling than the last. Anti-communist paranoia. As the Cold War began, Vatican officials saw former Nazis as valuable allies against Soviet influence. Better to save them than let them fall to communism. Religious loyalty. Many fugitives were Catholic, especially Croatians and Austrians. Some clergy felt protecting them was a duty to the faith, not a betrayal of it. Fascist sympathy. The church had maintained uneasy alliances with fascist regimes, signing concordats with both Hitler and Mussolini. Some within its ranks shared their authoritarian worldview. Financial motives. Many Nazis carried looted wealth, gold, art, and cash stolen from their victims. Researchers believe some of this treasure made its way into Vatican hands as donations. The most disturbing clue points to the Usta's treasury, the hoard of gold and valuables stolen by Croatia's Nazi puppet regime. When the war ended, that treasure vanished. Traces of it lead straight to the Vatican, where it may have been used to fund the Ratlins, or quietly absorbed into church coffers. To this day, the Vatican's full World War II archives remain incomplete. When Pope Francis opened sections of Pope Pius XII's records in 2020, historians found entire collections missing, periods erased, files referenced in other documents nowhere to be found. What disappeared with them? Explicit proof of Vatican orders? Financial records? Or written evidence that church officials knowingly chose politics over justice? We may never know, but what we do know is enough to damn them. The Vatican, claiming to represent Christ's mercy and moral truth, became an accessory after the fact to genocide, protecting, funding, and relocating those who orchestrated humanity's darkest crimes. It wasn't an accident. It was systematic, intentional, and for decades it worked. Even now, the shadow of those choices lingers, a stain that no amount of secrecy, sanctity, or time can wash away. In 1917, 3 Portuguese children claimed the Virgin Mary revealed 3 secrets about humanity's future. The first 2 seemed prophetic, predicting world wars and Soviet Russia's rise and fall. But the third secret remained locked in Vatican vaults for decades. When finally revealed in 2000, the Vatican claimed it predicted the 1981 assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. Almost nobody believed them. The release text was only 4 pages. But evidence suggested the original was much longer. Cardinal Ratzinger had made statements before 2000 suggesting the secret involved apocalyptic warnings about Satan infiltrating the church, bishops turning against bishops, and Rome's destruction. After the release, he made cryptic comments that what was published might not be everything. Multiple Vatican insiders who discussed the secret with Sister Lucia described content completely different from what was released. Warnings about the last times, entire nations disappearing, and terrible crisis within the church. There's the 2 envelopes theory. Witnesses said the original contained both a vision and the Virgin Mary's explanation of its meaning. The church released only the vision. Where's Mary's explanation? The pattern of the first 2 secrets included both vision and interpretation. The third breaks this pattern. Sister Lucia died in 2005 after spending most of her life isolated in convents where church authorities controlled all her contact with the outside world. Her complete personal archives, all letters, journals, and communications with popes, remain sealed with no announced release date. The third secret represents something disturbing: a religious institution claiming divine authority while withholding information they say came from God himself. If the Virgin Mary gave humanity warnings about our future, why won't the Church share the complete message? Their refusal suggests they believe some truths are too dangerous for the faithful to know. June 18, 1982. Roberto Calvi's body was found hanging from London's Blackfriars Bridge, his pockets stuffed with stones and bricks, carrying over $10,000. They called it suicide. Everyone knew it was murder. Calvi was God's banker, chairman of Banco Ambrosiano, which collapsed with $1.4 billion in debts. Investigation revealed a web of shell companies and illegal transactions leading straight to the Vatican Bank, the main shareholder. The scheme was brilliant. Calvi and Vatican officials, particularly Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, who ran the bank, created fake companies in Panama and the Bahamas. They laundered money through Vatican accounts protected by sovereign immunity, funds from the Sicilian Mafia, CIA covert operations, and fraudulent letters of credit worth billions. Before his death, Calvi sent desperate messages to Vatican officials begging for help. He carried documents proving Vatican complicity. Those documents disappeared after his murder and were never recovered. In 2002, forensic experts confirmed Calvi was strangled before being hung, a ritualistic Masonic killing. 5 people, including a mafia boss, were tried and acquitted, likely due to witness intimidation and destroyed evidence. Archbishop Marcinkus was indicted by Italian authorities but never arrested. He stayed within Vatican City where Italian law had no jurisdiction. The Vatican refused extradition. He remained protected until the statute of limitations expired, then retired to the United States, dying in 2006 without ever facing justice. The Vatican paid $244 million as a goodwill contribution to creditors, carefully avoiding any admission of guilt. That's $250 million to make the scandal disappear. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, the Vatican Bank allegedly laundered money for Latin American drug cartels, arms dealers, and dictators. The bank's sovereign status made it perfect. No external audits, no regulatory oversight, no requirements to report suspicious transactions. Former employees describe encrypted accounts with no names, transactions bypassing normal records, and explicit instructions never to ask questions. A two-tiered system where some accounts existed completely off the books. When Roberto Calvi's body was found beneath Blackfriars Bridge, it wasn't just one banker's death. It was a message written in blood and stone. There are secrets the Vatican will kill to protect. In 2012, Vatican maintenance workers broke through into a previously unknown chamber beneath the Teutonic Cemetery. Inside were hundreds of human bones. Many belonged to children. The discovery reopened one of Rome's darkest mysteries: the 1983 disappearance of 15-year-old Emanuela Orlandi, daughter of a Vatican Bank employee who lived inside Vatican City. She vanished after a music lesson and was never found. For years, anonymous tips suggested Emanuela never left Vatican walls, that she was killed inside and her body hidden within the city-state. The bone-filled chamber seemed to confirm this theory. Forensic analysis revealed remains from multiple individuals spanning centuries. But what shocked investigators was the number of juvenile bones, children aged 10 to 16 at death. DNA testing showed none were Emanuela. But this only deepened the mystery. Whose bones were these? And why were so many children hidden in a secret chamber? The Vatican acknowledged the discovery but provided no explanation. They claimed the remains were historical, and the chamber was simply forgotten over time. But this doesn't answer basic questions. Why were burials hidden rather than marked? Why so many juveniles together? Why no records in Vatican archives? Why were some bones relatively recent? Former Vatican employees and historians suggest darker possibilities. During medieval and Renaissance periods, illegitimate children of clergy were embarrassing scandals requiring concealment. The ossuary may represent a grim solution, a hidden burial site for children who died or were killed to protect powerful fathers' reputations. Historical accounts describe orphans taken into church institutions only to disappear without explanation. During plague, famine, or war, abandoned children were common. Most went to orphanages, but some vanished into a system with little oversight. The 2012 discovery led to expanded searches. In 2018, 2 other burial sites were excavated based on anonymous tips. Both were empty but had been recently disturbed, suggesting someone removed contents after learning investigators were coming. In 2019, ground-penetrating radar detected another chamber beneath the Teutonic College. The Vatican initially agreed to excavation, then abruptly denied access, claiming structural concerns. This pattern, discoveries followed by obfuscation, evidence followed by denied access, suggests the Vatican knows more than it admits, either about Emanuela specifically or about what else lies buried within its walls. The bones discovered in 2012 remain largely unidentified. The Vatican refuses to release detailed information about who was buried there or why. The ossuary of innocence proves the Vatican has been hiding bodies for centuries. And whatever the full story, the Church has decided it's better for those secrets to stay buried than for truth to come to light. Beneath Vatican City stretches the world's most secretive archive, 53 miles of shelving holding over 35,000 cataloged volumes plus countless unprocessed materials spanning 1,200 years of Church history. Until 1881, completely closed to outsiders. Even today, severely restricted. Researchers need credentials, letters of recommendation, months of advance requests. Maximum 3 folders per day. No browsing. You must know exactly what document you want and request it specifically. You can only find something if you already know it exists. Former archivists describe sections completely off-limits even to qualified scholars. These require special papal permission almost never granted. One historian researching medieval papal finances was denied access to 13th century account books, sensitive information about people dead 800 years. Another studying the Inquisition was blocked from viewing 1500s trial transcripts because they allegedly contained confessional material, but Inquisition trials were public proceedings. The pattern suggests the Vatican isn't protecting privacy, they're protecting the Church from scrutiny that might reveal suppressed scientific knowledge, evidence Vatican officials knew condemned scientists were correct. Financial corruption, payments from slave traders, colonial exploitation, dictators. Political conspiracies, Church involvement in wars, coups, assassinations. Abuse cover-ups, complaints about clergy sexual abuse going back centuries. Vatican archivists admit the archive is so vast that large portions have never been catalogued. Entire rooms of documents unexamined for generations. No one knows what they contain. Former employees describe deliberate compartmentalization. Different archivists handle different sections, discouraged from discussing their work. No single person has complete knowledge. This ensures no individual becomes a liability by knowing too much. Persistent rumors describe a black archive within the archive, a collection so secret even most Vatican officials don't know about it. Accessible only to the Pope and perhaps 1 or 2 trusted cardinals. In 2020, Pope Francis opened Pope Pius XII Archives, 1939 to 1958. Researchers hoped for clarity on the Church's Holocaust silence. They found some efforts to help Jewish refugees but also knowledge of Nazi atrocities without strong condemnation. And something disturbing, entire categories of expected documents cannot be found. Files from specific periods are missing. Records referenced in other documents don't exist or aren't being made available. The Vatican's secret archives hold the complete, unfiltered truth about 2,000 years of Church history. And the Vatican has decided most of that truth must remain locked away, accessible only to those trusted not to reveal what they find. In 1139, Irish Bishop St. Malachy claimed God revealed to him every pope who would lead the Church until the end of the world, 112 cryptic Latin phrases, each describing a future pope. Many prophecies seem remarkably accurate. Urban VII, 1590, from the antiquity of the city, born in Rome. Benedict XV, 1914 to 1922, religion laid waste, served during WWI's devastation. John Paul II, 1978 to 2005, from the labor/eclipse of the sun, born during a solar eclipse, buried during a solar eclipse. His papacy spanned eclipse to eclipse. Skeptics say the prophecies are vague or possibly a 16th century forgery. But believers point to specific accuracies that defy chance. Here's what makes people nervous. According to the prophecy, there would be exactly 112 popes after Malachi. Pope Benedict XVI, 2005 to 2013, was the 111th. Pope Francis, who has led since 2013, is the 112th and final pope on the list. The final prophecy is much longer than the others. In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit Peter the Roman, who will pasture his sheep in many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end. Pope Francis isn't named Peter and isn't from Rome. But every pope is St. Peter's successor. His papal motto references Peter explicitly. Some believe Petrus Romanus refers to a pope coming after Francis. What's eerie, Francis has made unusual statements suggesting he sees himself as transitional. He's spoken about limited time, broken centuries of tradition by refusing the papal appointments, implemented reforms seeming to prepare the church for radical transformation. The prophecy doesn't necessarily mean the world ends, but it suggests the end of the papacy as it has existed for 2,000 years. The Vatican could be destroyed. Rome is the seven-hilled city. The church could transform so radically the traditional papacy ceases. A schism could split Christianity fundamentally. Or something apocalyptic could make religious leadership irrelevant. Multiple sources beyond Malachi point to our era as significant. The third secret of Fatima allegedly contained apocalyptic church warnings. Various mystics throughout history predicted a great tribulation. Different prophetic traditions seem converging on this moment. The Vatican has never officially endorsed the prophecy of the popes, but never fully dismissed it either. Officials call it probably not authentic, with no doctrinal weight, notably different from calling it definitely false. Rumors suggest private Vatican discussions treat the prophecy more seriously than public statements. Some claim Pope Benedict's unprecedented 2013 resignation was influenced by belief he wasn't meant to be the final pope. Francis is now in his late 80s. There will inevitably be another transition. And when that happens, the prophecy predicts there shouldn't be a 113th pope. The Vatican isn't reassuring the faithful the prophecy is nonsense. They're not explaining contingency plans if something makes the papacy impossible to continue. They're simply waiting, like the rest of us, to see if an 800-year-old vision was right about the end of everything they've built. Cannot be found. Files related to specific time periods are missing. Records referenced in other documents don't exist in the archives, or at least aren't being made available. Were these documents destroyed? Hidden in the rumored Black Archive? Or did they never exist, suggesting gaps in the official historical record that the Church doesn't want to acknowledge? The Vatican's secret archives remain one of history's greatest information repositories and one of its most carefully guarded secrets. Behind those 53 miles of shelving lies the complete, unfiltered truth about 2,000 years of church history. And the Vatican has decided that most of that truth must remain locked away, accessible only to those they trust not to reveal what they find. From the murdered pope whose death was covered up, to the Nazi war criminals saved by church officials, to the children's bones hidden beneath Vatican cemeteries, we've explored 8 of the most terrifying secrets the Vatican has spent centuries trying to keep buried. But these 8 are just the surface of a much deeper darkness. Behind the sacred facade of the world's smallest country, within those 53 miles of secret archives and beneath those ancient stones, lie truths that could shatter faith, expose crimes, and reveal a history far darker than the official narrative admits. The Vatican is not simply the spiritual center of 1.3 billion Catholics. It is a fortress where truth goes to die, where evidence disappears, where questions are met with silence or denial. We've seen the pattern throughout this investigation. Every time researchers get close to uncovering something significant, access is denied. Every time evidence emerges that contradicts the official story, it vanishes or is sealed away. Every person who threatens to expose the truth either dies mysteriously, recants their testimony, or disappears into enforced silence. The Vatican operates on a simple principle: some secrets are too dangerous to reveal, no matter how many people deserve answers. Whether those secrets involve murder, corruption, hidden history, or knowledge that would challenge our understanding of reality itself, the Church has decided that maintaining its power and protecting its reputation matters more than truth. John Paul I was probably murdered to prevent him from exposing Vatican bank corruption. The full third secret of Fatima remains hidden because its contents might shake the faith of millions. The necropolis stays sealed because whatever lies in those deeper chambers contradicts the Church's carefully constructed history. The Ratlins helped Nazi war criminals because Cold War politics and financial gain mattered more than justice for Holocaust victims. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are documented facts that the Vatican refuses to address honestly. And the fact that they won't address them tells us everything we need to know about what they're hiding. As we live through what the prophecy of the popes identifies as the final papacy, as the Church faces crisis after crisis that threatens its very existence, the question becomes, how many more secrets will die with this institution? How much truth will remain